And I guess what are that's a lot of involvement to sort of have and send over some lubricant experts. But what are some of the hurdles there for for why choose? Is it just the volume and the revenue from the contract to say, hey, look, we'll send someone over to Caterpillar because you guys are such a big customer of ours, and they will sit in your offices and do that lubricant analysis and help to optimize your lubricant and maintenance schedules. What sort of drives them to select those accounts?
So it's essentially the commercial aspect. So volume is one part of it, but obviously the volume has to be pretty significant. So if it's a mining account, for example, where they're consuming 100,000 liters, that's a sizable volume on which there is a sizable margin associated, and so you'd want to give that little bit extra. But just apart from the volume, there's another consideration, which is, typically any industry will try to minimize their cost of operation, and to that extent, they will prefer to go with the minimum OEM recommendation. So if it's a Wärtsilä diesel engine, they've specified a certain requirement of the lubricant, they will just follow that. They will not go beyond that. But when you take over in terms of managing that customer as a key account and then providing all the technical services and oil condition monitoring, you can actually demonstrate what higher grades of lubricants would do. And you can also take on the risk that because as Shell or as any lubricant brand, whether or not a better lubricant could be used there. So you can take on the risk and say the machine is my responsibility, and if there's a breakdown, then I will repair the machine. So that's my responsibility now as a lubricant company. But since you've taken the responsibility, you can then say, well, I'm going to use, let's say, a synthetic industrial lubricant then, so you've got a large volume at a significantly higher margin, which is where the payback comes from for investing resources on a kind of a dedicated basis. So in short, it's the commercials that drive that kind of arrangement. And by the way, when I say industrial, I don't just mean factories and plants, but it could be, for example, I mentioned about mining, or it could be transport undertakings.
This is helpful. I guess, sort of another question that I have, and I'm wondering, how relevant this is to the automotive side, is I've seen Shell talk a lot about their sort of these AI-enabled lubricant chatbots that can sort of recommend lubricants, and they can sort of provide advice on lubricants. I haven't really played around with them yet, but, are those geared at all towards end-use automotive clients? Is it more sort of for industrial applications looking for advice? And what's sort of the view and goal of continuing to deploy these AI-enabled chatbots?
I'll probably give you only a partial answer to that one because it's evolved a little bit, and AI is the rage nowadays. So, I mean, initially it began with an actual hard set of data. So there was a database that was created for a whole range of vehicles by brand, by model, and by year. And then the most appropriate lubricant was matched up against that. It was targeted primarily at the automotive sector. So what Shell had sort of behind the scenes was a database where at the front end, if you plug in, I have this particular vehicle, model, year, etc., it will go into the database and pick out what was the most appropriate recommendation for that type of vehicle. Now, you actually had to enter in manually. And then at the back end, it was programmed to pull out that information. With chatbots coming in, this has become more automated where, of course, you still have to put in your